everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Trashterpiece Theater. This is our first edition of Trashterpiece Theater, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it. Tonight, we are going to be playing The Importance of Being Earnest. To Trashterpiece Theater. This is, I can hear me. Trashterpiece Theater, and fuck.
Who is that?
Chunk?
Who is that? Who's that the computer on?
Oh my God, turn the
Where's
volume
Kenny?
down.
Where's Kenny? Okay.
Trashterpiece.
As I was saying, we shall be playing The Importance of Being Earnest. Shall we go down the line and say who everyone's playing initially before we say how everyone can turn this wonderful masterpiece into a trashterpiece?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
All right, fabulous. I am Cucumber. I shall be playing John. Is that his name?
Yes.
John. I'll be John.
Or Jack.
Jack. What?
It's both. It's John and Jack.
Should have
What if you
read
got two
this.
names?
John is the formal version of Jack.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Since when?
Since the olden
Since
times.
always.
Yeah.
It's 1895.
Okay.
Specific.
Who's next?
I will be playing Lady Gwendolyn Fairfax for now.
I am Justin. I will be playing Reverend Canon Chasuble.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I'm Chunk, but you know that because you're a fan. And I'm playing Lane and some other dude that starts with an M.
Merriman.
Beautiful.
I'll figure it out when I see it.
I am Ryan, but I am playing Miss Prism as, thank you.
Oh, you're pretty old.
Oh boy.
And a lady.
Who's got a poop?
Yep. She's got to go.
I'm Dino, and I'll be playing Lady Bracknell.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm Diva, and I will be playing Cecily.
And I'm Brian, and I'll be playing Algernon.
Perfect.
Is that right?
Let's get
Nailed it.
started. Let's jump. Oh, sorry, no, we can't. Because first, let's talk about how you can turn this masterpiece into a trashterpiece. For $10, you can force one of us actors to do a different accent for 5 lines. We will all initially be trying to do this properly. So we're going to try and play this play as straight as possible. But yeah, for $10, you can give us a different accent for 5 lines. Keep it respectable, please. For $15, you can have 2 of the actors swap characters. So just, pick our names, pick the character names. We'll figure it out. For $50, you can do a full swap of characters. So we have a shift list already written down. So we'll bump over to that. And if we make it to $100 goal, we'll sing our lines for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then repeat.
5 minutes.
5 whole minutes.
Okay.
Great.
You all right, buddy? Listen, I know this is a trashterpiece, but you're not supposed to show up to work drunk.
We were not.
It should have been in the email.
It wasn't a get trashed piece.
No.
I misunderstood.
You do that as well.
I misunderstood the assignment.
Beautiful.
Right. Let's begin.
Nice.
All right. Act 1. Morning. Room in Algernon's flat in Half Moon Street. The room is luxurious and artistically furnished. The sound of a piano is heard in the adjoining room. Lane is arranging afternoon tea on the table, and after the music has ceased, Algernon enters.
Did you hear what I was playing, Lane?
I did not think it polite to listen, sir.
I'm sorry for that, for your sake. I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately, but I play with a wonderful expression. As far as the piano is concerned, sentiment is my forte. I keep science for life.
Yes, sir.
And speaking of the science of life, have you got the cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Bracknell?
Yes, sir.
Oh, by the way, Lane, I see from your book that on Thursday night when Lord Shorman and Mr. Worthing were dining with me, 8 bottles of champagne are entered as having been consumed.
Yes, sir. 8 bottles and a pint.
Why is it that a bachelor's establishment, the servants invariably drink the champagne? I ask merely for information.
I attribute it to the superior quality of the wine, sir. I have often observed that in the married households, the champagne is rarely first-rate brand.
Good heavens! Is marriage so demoralizing as that?
I believe it is a very pleasant state, sir. I've had very little experience with it myself up to the present. I've only been married once, and that was in consequence of a misunderstanding between myself and a young person.
I don't know that I am much interested in your family life, Lane.
No, sir, it is not a very interesting subject. I never think of it myself.
Very natural, I am sure. That will do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lane's views on marriage seem somewhat lax, really. If the lower orders don't set us a good example, what on earth is the use of them? They seem, as a class, to have absolutely no sense of moral responsibility.
Mr. Earnest Worthing?
How are you, my dear Earnest? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure. What else should bring up one anywhere? Eating as usual, I see, Algie.
I believe it is customary in good society to take some slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since Thursday?
In the country.
What on earth do you do there?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
And who are the people you amuse?
Oh, neighbors.
Got nice neighbors in your part of Shropshire?
Perfectly horrid. Never speak to one of them.
How immensely you must amuse them. By the way, Shropshire is your country, is it not?
Shropshire? Yes, of course. Hello. Why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who is coming to tea?
Oh, merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn.
How perfectly delightful.
Yes, that is all very well, but I'm afraid Aunt Augusta won't quite approve of your being here.
May I ask why?
My dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly disgraceful. It is almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirts with you.
I am in love with Gwendolyn. I have come to town expressly to propose to her.
I thought you had come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
I really don't see anything romantic in proposing. It is very romantic to be in love. But there is nothing romantic about a definite proposal. Why, one might be accepted, one usually is, I believe, then the excitement is all over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If I ever get married, I'll certainly try to forget the fact.
I have no doubt about that, dear Algie. The divorce court was specially invented for people whose memories are so curiously constituted.
Oh, there is no use speculating on that subject. Divorces are made in heaven. Well, please don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They're ordered especially for Aunt Augusta.
Well, you have been eating them all the time.
This is a quite different matter. She is my aunt. Have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn is devoted to bread and butter.
And very good. Bread and butter it is, too.
Well, my dear fellow, you need not eat as if you were going to eat at all. You behave as if you were married to her already. You are not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be.
Why on earth do you say that?
Well, in the first place, girls never marry the men they flirt with. Girls don't think it right.
Oh, that is nonsense.
It isn't. It's a great truth. It accounts for the extraordinary number of bachelors that one sees all over the place. In the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
My dear fellow, Gwendolyn is my first cousin. And before I allow you to marry her, you will have to clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What on earth do you mean? What do you mean, Algie, by Cecily? I don't know anyone of the name of Cecily.
Bring me that cigarette case, Mr. Wellington. Left in the smoking room last time I dined here.
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to say you have had my cigarette case all this time? I wish to goodness you had let me know. I have been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. I was very nearly offering a large reward.
Southern accent for Brian.
Huh?
Southern accent for Brian.
Well, I wish you would offer one. I happen to be more than usually hard up.
There is no good offering a large reward for that thing that is what? Now that the thing is found. Look, I had to turn a page.
I think that is rather mean of you. I forgot it already.
Southern.
Southern, right. I must say, however, it makes no matter for now. Looking at the inscription inside, the thing isn't yours after all. I'll figure it out.
Southern. Yeehaw.
It's your line, or Jack.
I bet. Of course it's mine. You have seen me with it 100 times, and you have no right whatsoever to read what is written inside. It is a very ungentlemanly thing to read a private cigarette case.
Oh, it's absurd to have a hard, fast rule about what one should read and what one shouldn't. Howdy, 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 howdy. I found a more and half modern culture depends on what shouldn't read. Found it again.
I am quite aware of the fact that I don't propose to discuss more modern culture. It isn't the sort of thing one should talk about in private. I simply want my cigarette case back.
Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is present from some of the name of Cecily.
And
you said you didn't know anyone of that name.
Stage manager coming in. We would like Cucumber to now do a Christopher Walken accent for 5 lines. Brian, I am counting you on your 3rd line because we found the accent again.
Yeah, I'm just going to finish this page.
Continue.
Well, if you want to know, Lee happens to be my aunt.
I forgot where we were. Your aunt?
Yes, charming old lady she is, too. Lives at Tunbridge Wells. Just give it back to me, Algie.
But why does she call herself Little Cecily if she is your aunt and lives at Tunbridge Wells? From Little Cecily with her fondest love. That's what it says.
My dear fellow, what on earth is there in that? Some ants are tall, some ants are not tall. That is a matter that surely an ant may be allowed to decide for herself. You seem to think that every ant should be exactly like your ant. That is absurd. For heaven's sake, give me back my cigarette case.
Yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From Little Cecily with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. There is no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt, but why an aunt, no matter what her size may be, should call her own nephew her uncle, I can't quite make out. Besides, your name isn't Jack at all. It's Earnest.
It isn't Ernest, it's Jack.
You have always told me it was Earnest. I have introduced you to everyone as Earnest. You answer to the name of Earnest. You look as if your name was Earnest. You are the most earnest looking person I ever saw in my life. It is perfectly absurd you're saying that your name isn't Ernest. It's on your cards. Here's one of them. Mr. Ernest Worthy, B4, the Albany. I'll keep this as proof. Your name is Ernest. If ever you attempt to deny me or Gwendolyn or anyone else.
And switching accents again. Thank you, Manly Mutt, for your donation of $10. Cucumber, you are drunk and Irish.
My name is
Ryan,
Earnest
you're ready.
Town.
What?
Jack in the country, and the cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Wait, what am I doing now? Am I back to English?
You're back.
Okay, let's find this again. Yes, but that does not account for the fact that your small Aunt Cecily, who lives at Tunbridge Wells, calls you her dear uncle. Come, old boy, you had much better to have the thing out at once.
My dear Algie, you were talking exactly as if you were a dentist. It is very vulgar to talk like a dentist when one isn't a dentist. It perverts, produces a false impression.
Well, that is what exactly dentists always do. Now go on. Tell me the whole thing. I may mention that I have always suspected you of being a conformed and secret Bunburyist, and I'm quite sure of it now.
Bunburyist? What on earth do you mean by Bunburyist?
I'll reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you are kind enough to inform me why you are Earnest in town and Jack in the country.
Wait, produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Now, produce your explanation and pray make it improbable.
My dear fellow, there is nothing improbable about my explanation at all. In fact, it's perfectly ordinary. Old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a little boy, made me his wheel guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle from motives of respect that you could not possibly appreciate, lives at my place in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
Where is that place in the country, by the way?
Back to
That is nothing to you, my dear boy. You are not going to be invited. I may tell you candidly that the place is not in Shropshire.
I suspected that, my dear fellow. I have Bunburied all over the Shropshire in 2 separate occasions now. Go on. Why are you Earnest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear Algy, I don't know whether you will be able to understand my real motives. You are hardly serious enough. When one is placed in the position of guardian, one has to adopt a very high moral tone on all subjects. It's one's duty to do so. And as a high moral tone can hardly be said to conduce very much to either one's health or one's happiness, in order to get up to town, I have always pretended to have a younger brother of the name Earnest, who lives in the Albany and gets into the most dreadful scrapes. That, my dear Algy, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
The truth is rarely pure and never simple. Modern life would be very tedious if it were either, and modern literature a complete impossibility.
That wouldn't be at all a bad thing.
Literary criticism is not my forte, my dear fellow. Don't try it. You should leave that to people who haven't been at university. They do it so well in the daily papers. What you really are is a Bunburyist. I was quite right in saying that you were a Bunburyist. You were one of the most advanced Bunburyists I know.
What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a very useful younger brother called Earnest in order that you may be able to come up to town as often as you like. I have invented an invaluable permanent invalid called Bunbury in order that I may be able to go down into the country whenever I choose. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. If it wasn't for Bunbury's extraordinary bad health, for instance, I wouldn't be able to dine with you at Willis tonight, for I haven't been really engaged to Aunt Augusta for more than a week.
I haven't asked you to dine with me anywhere tonight.
I know, you're absurdly careless about sending out invitations. It's very foolish of you. Nothing annoys people so much as not receiving invitations.
You had much better dine with your Aunt Augusta.
I haven't the smallest intention of doing anything of the kind. To begin with, I dined there on Monday, and once a week is quite enough to dine with one's own relations. In the second place, whenever I do dine there, I always treated as a member of the family and sent down with either... Try it again. I am always treated as a member of the family and sent down with either no woman at all or 2. In the third place, I know perfectly well whom she will place me next to tonight. She will place me next to Mary Farquhar, who always flirts with her own husband across from the dinner table. It's not very pleasant. Indeed, it is not even decent, and that sort of thing is enormously on the increase. The amount of women in London who flirt with their own husbands is perfectly scandalous. It looks so bad, it is simply washing one's clean linen in public. Besides, now that I know you to be a conformed Bunburyist, I naturally want to talk to you about Bunburying. I want to tell you the rules.
I'm not a Bunburyist at all. If Gwendolen accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother. Indeed, I think I'll kill him in any case. Cicely is a little too much interested in him. It is rather a bore, so I'm going to get rid of Earnest. And I strongly advise you to do the same with with your invalid friend who has the absurd name.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury, and if you ever get married, which seems to me extremely problematic, you will be very glad to know Bunbury. A man who marries without knowing Bunbury is very tedious time limit.
That is nonsense. If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, and she is the only girl I ever saw in my life that I would marry, I certainly won't want to know Bunbury.
Then your wife will. You won't seem to realize that in married life, 3 is company and 2 is none.
That, my dear friend, is the theory that the corrupt French drama has been propounding for the last 50 years.
Yes. And that the happy English home has proved in half the time.
For heaven's sake, don't try to be cynical. It's perfectly easy to be cynical.
My dear fellow, it isn't easy to be anything nowadays. There's such a lot of beastly competition about. Oh. That must be Aunt Augusta. Only relatives or creditors ever ring in that Wagnerian manner. Now, if I get her out of the way for 10 minutes, so that you can have an opportunity for proposing to Gwendolyn, may I dine with you tonight at Willis's?
I suppose so, if you want to.
Yes, but you must be serious about it. I hate people who are not serious about meals. It is so shallow of them.
Lady Bracknell and Mrs. Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you're behaving very well.
I am feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
That's not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things rarely go together. Algernon, dear Mia, you are smart.
Outrageous French accent for cucumber.
I read that.
Okay, I'm counting.
I am always smart, aren't I, Mr. Worthington?
You're quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I am not that. It would leave no room for developments, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry if we are a little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I hadn't been there since her poor husband's death. I never saw a woman so altered. She looks like quite 20 years younger, and now I'll have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Oh, certainly, Aunt Augusta.
What?
And won't you come and sit here, Gwendolyn?
Thanks, Mama. I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Good heavens, Lane. Why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir. I went down twice.
No cucumbers?
No, sir. Not even for ready money.
That will do, Lane. That will do.
Thank you, sir.
I am greatly distressed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers. Not even for ready money.
It really makes no matter, Algernon. I had some crumpets with Lady Harbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure now.
I hear her hair has turned quite gold from grief.
It certainly has changed color. From what cause I, of course, cannot say. Thank you. I've quite a treat for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to send you down with Mary Farker. She is such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband. It's delightful to watch them.
I'm afraid, Aunt Augusta, I shall have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all.
I hope not, Algernon. I would put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he is accustomed to that.
It is a great bore, and I need hardly say a terrible disappointment to me. But the fact is, I have just had the telegram to say that my poor friend Bunbury is very ill again.
Oh.
They seem to think I should be with him.
It is very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, poor Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Oh, well, I must say, Algernon, that I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he was going to live or die. This shilly-shallying, whether he was going to with the question is absurd, nor do I in any way approve of the modern sympathy with invalids. I consider it morbid. Illness of any kind is hardly a thing to be encouraged in others. Health is the primary duty of life. I am always telling that to your poor uncle, but he never seems to take much notice. As far as any improvement in his ailments goes, I think I think I should be obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me to be kind enough to have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music for me. It is my last reception, and one wants something that will encourage conversation, particularly at the end of the season when everyone has practically said whatever they had to say, which in most cases was probably not much.
I'll speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta. If he still is conscious, and I think I can promise you he'll be all right by Saturday. Of course, the music is a great difficulty, you see. If one plays good music, people don't listen. And if one plays bad music, people don't talk. But I'll run over the program I've drawn out if you will kindly come into the next room for a moment.
Thank you, Algernon. It is very thoughtful of you. I'm sure the program will be delightful after a few expurgations. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People always seem to think that they are improper and either look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German sounds a thoroughly respectable language, and indeed, I believe is so. Gwendolyn, will you accompany me?
Certainly, Mama.
Oh, charming, there's been Miss Fairfax.
Pray, don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk about the weather, I always feel quite certain they mean something else. And that makes me so nervous.
I do not mean something else. No.
I think you do. In fact, I am never wrong.
And I would like to be allowed to take advantage of Miss Lady Brackner's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. Mama has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I have found often and had to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I've admired you more than any girl I have ever met since I met you.
Yes, I am quite aware of that fact, and I often wish that in public, at any rate, you had been more demonstrative. For me, you have always been an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. The fact is constantly mentioned in the more expensive monthly magazines and has reached the provincial pulpits, I am told. And in my ideal has always been to love someone by the name of Earnest. There's something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. The moment Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you.
And we have a German accent for Gwendolyn.
All right.
You really love me, Gwendolyn.
Wellington.
Passionately. Sorry, you're throwing me off.
Jawohl. Darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
Mine own Earnest.
But you don't really mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest.
But your name is Earnest.
Yes, I know it is, but supposing it was something else. Do you mean to say you couldn't love me then?
That is clearly a metaphysical speculation. Like the most metaphysical speculations have very little reference at all to the actual facts of real life as we know them.
Personally, darling, to speak quite candidly, I don't much care about the name of Earnest. I don't think the name suits me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Well, really, Gwendolyn, I must say that I think there are lots of other much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance, a charming name.
Jack? 9. There is very little music in the name Jack, if any at all. Indeed, it does not thrill. It produces absolute... I'm going French now.
Oh, it's okay. You're done too.
Okay.
You're good to go back.
No vibrations. I have known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, were more than usually plain. Besides, Jack is a notorious domesticity for John, and I pity any woman who is married to a man called John. She would probably never be allowed to know the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude. The only real safe name is Earnest.
Gwendolyn, I must get christened at once. I mean, we must get married at once. There is no time to be lost.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Surely, you know that I love you, and you led me to believe, Miss Fairfax, that you were not absolutely indifferent to me.
I adore you, but you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject has not even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity, and to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I think it is only fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I'm fully determined to accept you.
Gwendolyn!
Yes, Mr. Worthing. What have you got to say to me?
You know what I have got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it. Go on.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
What a surprise. Of course I will, darling. How long have you been about it? I'm afraid you had very little experience in how to propose.
My own one, I have never loved anyone in the world but you.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. What wonderfully blue eyes you have, Ernest. They are quite blue. I hope you will always look at me like that, especially when there are other people present.
And everyone is going to swap roles. Thank you for your donation.
Excellent.
Okay, so we're singing as well?
Yes.
Okay, everyone, I'm going to set the timer.
Tell us who we're swapping with again.
Are we swapping and singing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah?
Okay,
why not?
so here we go. Ryan and myself swap roles. Cucumber and Haley, you will swap roles. Justin
Yes.
and Dino, you will swap roles. And Chunk and Cucumber, the roles will be a swap.
Wait, what?
Wait, who did I get?
You just swapped me twice.
I meant to say Chunk and Brian.
There you go.
Chunk and Brian.
So, who are you?
Dwarf and friends look alike. Oh, Lane.
Lane?
Mary.
Okay, I'll do this. I am now Miss Prism. Ryan is now Cecily. Cucumber is now Gwendolyn.
Yes.
Haley, you are now Jack. Justin, you are now
Lady Bracknell.
Lady Bracknell. Dino, you are now
Ryan.
Dr. Chasuble.
Yes.
Brian, you are now Lane and Merriman.
Lane. Got it.
We're on page 22, chat.
Page 22. Some of us will not be entering for a bit, depending on what. Wait, I am.
Oh, I guess 23.
Yeah,
That's
top
right.
of 23.
Oh, you're on. No, 20.
And now we're singing.
Here we go. I'm starting. Once
What line are we
Bracknell
starting off
starts.
Top of
Mr.
23.
Worthy.
Nell's line.
Okay, ready?
Top of 23. Ready. When you start, I will go.
Mr. Worthing, rise up from this semi-recompense posture. It is most decorous.
Mama, I must beg you to retire. There's no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing has not finished yet.
Finished what? May I speak?
I hear the name to Mr. Worthing, Mama.
Pardon me, you are not engaged to anyone or anything. When you do become engaged to someone, I or your father, should his health permit him, will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come on a young girl as a surprise. Pleasant or unpleasant as the case may be, it is hardly a matter that she could be allowed to arrange for herself. And now I have a few questions to put you, Mr. Worthing. While I am making these inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mama! Probably got muted, huh?
In the carriage! Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn! carriage.
Yes, Mama.
You can take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you are not down in my list of eligible young men, although I am the same list as the dear Duchess of Bolton Passier. We work together, and in fact, however, I am quite ready to enter your name, should your answers be what a really affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I smoke.
I am glad to hear it. A man should always have a patient of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. I have always been of the opinion that a man who desires to get should know everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I'm pleased to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate, exotic fruit. Touch it and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England, at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a serious danger to the upper classes and probably leads to active violence in Grosvenor Square. What is your income and when does the 5 minutes stop?
1 minute left.
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or investments?
In investments chiefly.
That is satisfactory. What between the duties expected of one's during one lifetime and the duties exacted from one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and prevents one from keeping it up. That's all that can be said about land.
I have a country house with some land, of course, attached to it. About 1,500 acres, I believe. But I don't depend on that for my real income. In fact, as far as I can make out, the poachers are the only people who make anything out of it.
A country house! How many bedrooms do you? We'll find that point out clearly after nudes. What?
Hooray! And now we go back to our other rules? Original rules?
Yes, I believe the other rules were for a minute. Was that also for a minute?
I think so, but we extended it because they hit a
extended
song.
it because of the song. Okay, so bravo, song.
Well
We are
done.
now
Wow.
back to our original
Well
rules.
done, Justin. That was amazing to watch.
Great.
I'm inspired. I'm inspired.
Where did you leave off Lady Bracknell's line? I got distracted by the notes.
We left
Just
off
start from a
on-
country house. We'll
That's
go
what I
back.
thought. Okay. A country house. How many bedrooms? Well, that point can be cleared up afterwards. You have a townhouse, I hope? A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolyn could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
Well, I own a house in Belgrave Square, but it is let by the year to Lady Bloxham. Of course, I can get it back whenever I like at 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham? I don't know her.
She goes about very little. She's a lady considerably advanced in years.
Ah, nowadays that is no guarantee of respectability of character. What
Lady
number in
Bracknell?
Belgrave Square?
Lady Bracknell, we had a donation for an accent a little bit earlier that I missed. Al Pacino for Lady
great.
Bracknell, please, for the next 5 lines.
Oh. Oh God!
All right, do it.
What? What number in Belgrave Square? That's off.
149.
Oh, the unfashionable side. I thought there was something. I thought there was something. However, that oh, I can't do this. That could easily be altered.
You got this.
Ooh-ah, just do ooh-ah.
I can sing. You can do this.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both, if necessary. I presume. What are your politics?
Well, I am afraid I really have none. I am a liberal unionist.
Oh, they count as Tories. They dine with us. Or come in the evening at any rate, not to no minor matters. Are your parents living?
I have lost both my parents.
Last line, Dino, you got this.
Oh, God. It's a big one, too. Both.
Say hello.
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father? Was he was evidently a man of carelessness. I'm sorry, he has some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers call the purple of commerce? Or did he rise from the ranks of the aristocracy?
I'm afraid I really don't know. The fact is, Lady Bracknell, I said I had lost my parents. It would be nearer the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I don't actually know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
The late Mr. Thomas Cardew, an old gentleman of a very charitable and kindly disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort.
Where did the charitable gentleman who had the first-class ticket for the seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. I was in a handbag, a somewhat large black leather handbag with handles to it, an ordinary handbag, in fact.
In what locality did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
Pausing. We have 2 requests for Lady Bracknell, Italian.
Okay.
Cucumber, I'm going to let this be your call. Mexican.
Sorry.
You Italian?
It's cool.
We're
Hey, Chunk, you want to take my next 5
He
lines?
did Al Pacino.
Am I allowed because of management?
I allow it.
Yeah.
Oh, is Chunk gonna do the lines?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chunk will take over my next 5 lines.
Nice.
Wait, where did I leave off? Sorry.
Page 27. And we have Jack in the cloakroom at Victoria Station.
Okay.
It was given to him in mistake for his own.
This is gonna be terrible.
Do it. You got this.
The cloakroom at the Victoria Station. It was given to him in a mistake for his own.
Why does yours sound worse than mine probably would? Anyway, go on.
The cloakroom at the Victoria Station?
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. Mr. Worthing, I confess I feel somewhat bewildered by what you have told me. To be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a good depth for the ordinary decencies of a family life that remind one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to. As for the particular locality in which the handbag was found, a cloakroom at the railway station might serve to conceal a social indiscretion. Was probably indeed been used, has probably been indeed been used for that purpose before now. But it could hardly be regarded as an assured basis for a recognized position in good society.
May I ask you then, what would you advise me to do? I need hardly to say I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
Signore, I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations as soon as possible and to make a definite effort to produce at any rate one parent of either sex for the reason it's quite over.
Well, I don't see how I could possibly manage to do that. I could produce the handbag at any moment. It is in my dressing room at home. I really think I could satisfy you later, Backwell.
Me, sir? What has it to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell with the dream of allowing our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Well,
Accents. William Shatner accent.
we still have 2 more lines. I'm keeping tabs.
Oh, gotcha.
Got it.
Or 1 more line each. Yeah.
And then you're both going to be switching to William Shatner.
Oh, God.
For goodness sake, don't play the ghastly tune. Ugly, how idiotic you are.
Didn't it go off all right, old boy? You don't mean to say Gwendolyn refused you? I know it is a way she has. She is always refusing people. I think it is most ill-natured of her.
So Jack, you are now William Shatner. Do we want Algie to do Shatner now as well, since Bracknell's out of the scene for a bit?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah?
Sure.
Yeah, fine by me.
Oh, Gwendolyn is right as a trivet. As far as she's concerned, we are engaged. Her mother is perfectly unbearable. Never met such a Gorgon. I don't really know what a Gorgon is like, but I am sure, quite sure, that Lady Bracknell is one. In any case, she is a monster, without being a myth, which is rather unfair. I beg your pardon, Algie. I suppose you shouldn't talk about your own aunt in that way before you.
My dear boy, I love hearing my relations abused. It is the only thing that makes me put up with them at all. Relations are simply a tedious pack of people who haven't got the remotest knowledge of how to live, nor the smallest instinct about when to die.
Oh, that is nonsense! Well, I won't argue about the matter. You always want to argue about things.
That is exactly what things were originally made for.
Upon my word, if I thought that, I'd shoot myself. A pause. You don't think there is any chance of Gwendolyn becoming like her mother in about 150 years, do you, Al? G.
All women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. No man does. That's his.
Is that clever?
It is perfectly phrased. And quite as true as any observation in civilized life should be.
And done.
I am sick to death of cleverness. Everybody is clever nowadays. You can't go anywhere without meeting clever people. The thing has become an absolute public nuisance. I wish to goodness we had a few fools left.
Oh, we have.
I should extremely like to meet them. What do they talk about?
The fools? Oh, about the clever people, of course.
What fools?
By the way, did you tell Gwendolyn the truth about your being Earnest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, the truth isn't quite the sort of thing one tells to a nice, sweet, refined girl. What extraordinary ideas you have about the way to behave to a woman.
The only way to behave to a woman is to make love to her, if she is pretty, and to someone else, if she is plain.
Oh, that is nonsense.
Yes, but it is hereditary, my dear fellow. It is the sort of thing that runs in families. You had much better say a severe chill.
You are sure a severe chill isn't hereditary or anything of that kind?
Of course it isn't.
Very well, then my poor brother Earnest is carried off suddenly in Paris by a severe chill. That gets rid of him. Oh boy.
But I thought you said that. Miss Cardew was a little too much interested in your poor brother Earnest. Won't you feel his loss a good deal?
Well, that is all right. Cecily is not a silly romantic girl, and I am glad to say she has got a capital appetite, goes long walks, and pays no attention at all to her lessons.
I would rather like to see you, Cecily.
I will take very good care that you never do. She is excessively pretty, and she is only just 18.
Have you told Gwendolyn yet that you have an excessively pretty ward who is only just 18?
One doesn't just blurt these things out to people. Cecily and Gwendolyn are perfectly certain to be extremely great friends. I'll bet you anything you like that half an hour after they have met, they will be calling each other sister.
Women only do that when they have called each other a lot of other things first. Now, my dear boy, if we want to get a good table at Willis's, we really must go and dress. Do you know it's nearly 7?
Oh, it is always nearly 7.
Well, I'm hungry.
And we thank you, Hardliner, for your generous donation of $20. Jack,
Yes.
you now have Keanu Reeves
Jack and
and Algernon.
Mm-hmm.
Jack and
Sweet.
Algie. And I am on the finger clock.
All right, well, where are we at?
I said, well, I'm hungry. Halfway through.
I never knew you when you weren't. What?
What shall we do after dinner? Go to the theater?
Oh no, I love listening.
Well, let us go to the club.
Oh no, I hate talking.
Well, we might just trot around to the Empire at 10.
Oh no. I can't bear looking at things. It's so silly.
Well then, what shall we do?
Nothing.
It is awfully hard work doing nothing. However, I don't mind work here where there's no definite object of any kind.
Miss Fairfax.
Gwendolyn, upon my word, wow!
Algie, you're done?
Algie, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Really, Gwendolyn? I don't think I can allow this at all.
Algie, you always adopt a strictly immoral attitude toward life. You are not quite old enough to do that. Turn.
Whoa, my own darling.
And I would like to point out, thank you, Fit the Fishy, if I said that wrong, I'm sorry, for your $10 donation. Cucumber Scottish. Continue.
Ernest, we may never be married. From the expression of Mamma's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regard to what their children say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Whatever influence I had over Mamma, I lost at the age of 3. But although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else, and marry often, nothing that she can possibly do can alter my eternal devotion to you.
Dear Gwendolyn.
The story of your romantic origin, as related to me by Mama with unpleasing comments, has naturally stirred up the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination. The simplicity of your character makes you exquisitely incomprehensible to me. Your town address at the Albany I have. What is your address in the country?
The Manor House, Woolton, Hertfordshire.
There is a good postal service, I suppose. It may be necessary to do something desperate. That, of course, will require serious consideration. I will communicate with you daily.
And Gwendolyn, we have a donation for you. Dolly Parton high energy Southern accent.
All right, okay.
And if you watch my hand for you, I will be over here.
Okay.
And my lines have been pretty short, so I'm gonna keep this for another couple good chunkers of lines. I'll
Perfect.
stop myself on that one.
Perfect.
What does that have to do with chunk?
Yeah, what?
Shh. My own one.
How long do you remain in town?
Till Monday.
Good. Algie, you may turn around now.
Thanks. I've turned around already.
You may also ring the bell.
You'll let me see you to your carriage, my... What the fuck just happened? Hold on. Go ahead, this one, damn it.
Are you?
You'll let me see you to your carriage, my own darling.
Certainly.
I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to read all that at all. Nope. Lots of direction. Nope. Okay. A glass of Sherry Lane.
Gwendolyn
yes,
and Jack
sir?
just left the room.
Tomorrow Lane, ongoing bunburying.
Yes, sir.
I shall probably not be back till Monday. Oh, sorry. You can put my dress clothes, my smoking jacket, and all the Bunbury suits.
Yes, sir.
I hope tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane.
That never is, sir.
Lane, you're a perfect pessimist.
I do my best to give satisfaction, sir.
There's a sensible, intellectual girl. The only girl I ever cared for in my entire life. What on earth are you so amused at? What on earth are you so amused at?
Oh, I'm a little anxious about poor Bunbury, that's all.
If you don't take care, your poor friend Bunbury will get you into a serious scrape someday.
I love scrapes. They're the only thing that are ever serious.
Well, that's nonsense, Algie. You never talk anything but nonsense.
Nobody ever does.
And curtain on Act 1.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby and get yourselves a treat.
And we have for the next we see Chunk, we will have your Tammy accent.
Yep.
Yes.
Yo.
Okay, cool.
What's that?
You'll see.
Okay.
Classic.
So good.
Right? Act 2.
Act 2.
Act
Yes.
2.
And I think also is a good time to remind people what our incentives are and everything like that. For $10, you can obviously give us 5 lines of an accent of your choosing.
Or bad impression, because that's
bad
been lots of fun
impression,
too.
yes.
So
For $15, you can have one of us swap with someone else for a minute, I think is what we agreed. Yeah.
yes.
And then $50, the entire cast swaps. And every time we hit $100, we will all have to sing our lines.
And we are $10 away from our next sung
Oh, man.
5 minutes.
Really?
Yep.
Oof.
Someone said can't hear Ryan. Thank you,
Ooh.
Hardliner, for
Can you hear
saying
me here?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. Cool. I will hold up my mic when I do my lines.
Cool.
Which is next? Very soft. Shoot. All right, let me.
Yeah, that's weird.
Good job, Cucumber. Your stuff's pretty good.
Peoples.
Huh?
Hopefully.
Your stuff's pretty good.
Someone
Cucumber.
said better.
Oh, thanks, me.
Oh, okay.
I'm a little jealous.
Your stuff's pretty good.
Yay.
All right.
Good. Act 2.
All right.
Okay.
2.
Act 2.
Oh, thank you for the sub, Oswin Pond. We missed a sub.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank
Apologies.
you.
I think we missed another one up there too somewheres. It's hard because not all of our eyes are on the chat for this one. We gotta.
Yeah, we're all
Loud
in
alerts.
scripts.
Yeah, sorry, our eyes are buried.
Are you guys not off book? Because I'm.
I see.
I can bring this scene in if you guys want to.
Grumpy Hoosier wants to know how much for sign language.
Have to teach me a class on sign language.
Yeah.
I don't really know any.
Yeah.
Reasons, no.
Thank you. Oh wait, you're welcome. I don't know.
I can do thank you.
Yeah.
We ready?
Ready.
All right.
Really?
Dino, did you want to set us up for
Act 2.
He's got it.
Justin's gonna do it.
Garden
Oh, perfect,
at
thank
the
you.
Manor House. A flight of gray stone steps leads up to the house. The garden, an old-fashioned one, full of roses, time of year, July. Basket chairs and a table covered with books are set under a large yew tree. Miss Prism, discovered seated at the table. Cecily is at the back watering flowers.
Cecily! Certainly, surely, such a utilitarian occupation as the watering of flowers is rather Moulton's duty than yours, especially at the moment when intellectual pleasures await you. Your German gravel is on the table. Pray open it to page 15. We will repeat yesterday's lesson.
But I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language. I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after my German lesson.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German. As he was leaving for town yesterday. Indeed, he always lays stress on your German when he is leaving town.
Dear Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he is so serious that I think he cannot be well.
Your guardian enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanor is especially to be commended in one so comparatively young as he is. I know no one who has a higher sense of duty or responsibility.
I suppose that is why he often looks a little bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I'm surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. Idle merriment and triviality would be out of place in his conversation. You must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, his brother.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometimes. We might have a good influence over him, Miss Prism. I'm sure you certainly would. You know German and geology and things of that kind of influence very much.
And,
We have a donation.
Yep.
Arsenal 2 carry. Thanks for the donation. Harley Quinn Brooklyn accent for Cecily.
Yes.
That's silly.
Cecily.
Brooklyn.
Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn.
I don't know how Harley Quinn talks. How does Harley talk?
She's like
Brooklyn. Heavy
Yeah,
Brooklyn.
nasally New
hey,
Yorker.
Mr. J. Oh, hey, Puddin'. Like,
higher
hey, Puddin'. Oh, kind of like this.
There it is.
Okay.
All right.
Haley's got
That's
you.
it.
All right.
Thank you, Hailey.
And your lines too.
I do not think that even I could produce any effect on a character that, according to his own brother's admission, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I am not sure that I would
Oh, wait.
desire...
Everyone shut up. We got to sing these lines because we just hit 100. So, thanks, everybody.
You...
Or
Yeah,
do we do
in
the
your
act-
voice. Oh,
in
hell
the
yeah.
act. Okay.
Yes.
We're switching
100%.
too, aren't we?
No.
No,
We're not switching.
No, that's a separate donation. Last time it just
Separate, okay.
landed on that. Yeah.
All right.
Fight. You got this.
All right.
I can do it. You can do it.
Also, Ryan, when you replace... Oh, never mind. I was going to say, when you replace the bar, fix sign.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
La, 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 la.
Okay.
I do not think that even I could produce any effect on a character that, according to his own brother's admission, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I am not sure what I would desire to reclaim him. I am not in favor of his modern mania for turning bad people into good people at the moment's notice. As a man sows, so let him reap. You must put away your diary, Cecily. I really don't see why you should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary that we all carry about with us.
Yes, but it usually chronicles the this is in Brooklyn. You
Just keep it. It's good.
chronicles the things that have never happened and couldn't possibly have happened. I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all the 3-volume novels that Maudie sends us.
Do not speak slightly of the 3-volume novel. Cecily, I wrote one myself in my earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good ended happily, and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so. But it does seem very unfair. And was your novel ever published?
Oh, lass, no. The manuscript, unfortunately, was abandoned. I use the word in the sense of I lost or mislaid. To your work, child. These speculations are pointless.
Oh, but I see a dear Dr. Chasuble coming through the garden.
We still have 3 minutes on singing, y'all.
No, we're good. No, we're back to normal now. You're good.
No, we're still singing. It's
No,
5
she's
minutes.
singing, but she's done with Harley Quinn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Harley Quinn's done.
Oh.
Still
No,
3 minutes.
I've been timing this. I flipped it like 5 times already.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh.
so-
When did you start yours?
about 15 seconds.
Huh. Weird.
I am irrelevant.
Anyway, keep going.
Let's continue.
Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
And how are we this morning? Miss Prism, you are, I trust, well.
Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache.
I think it would do her much good to have a short stroll in the park.
Dr. Joseph. I meant to say with you, but then I goofed. With you.
Dr. Chasuble.
Cecily, I have not mentioned anything about a headache.
Oh, dear Miss Prism, I know that, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache.
Indeed, I was thinking about that and not about my German lesson when the rector came in.
I hope, Cicely, you are not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am. We're also done singing.
Oh, good.
Hooray.
Yep.
Oh, that is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees. Mr. Worthing, I suppose, has not returned yet from town.
We do not expect him until Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes. He usually likes to spend his Sundays in London. He is not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, as by all accounts that unfortunate young man, his brother, seems to be. But I must not disturb Agria and her pupil any longer.
Agria, my name is Letitia.
Letitia.
Letitia. Oh, thank you, sir.
Now, Latidia.
Yeah.
My name is
now?
Letitia, doctor.
The tits now. A classic allusion merely, drawn from the pagan authors. I shall see you both, no doubt, at evening song.
I think, dear doctor, I will have a stroll with you. If I find I have a headache, I have a headache after all, and a walk might do me good.
With pleasure, Miss Prism. With pleasure. We might go as far as the school and back.
That would be delightful. Cecily, you will read your political economy in my absence. That chapter on the fall of the rupee, you may omit.
Thank you for your $10 donation. We believe that the Reverend needs a Wave Woman accent. Thank you, Deadly Nightshade.
Yes.
The chapter, let's see, it is somewhat too sensational. Even these metallic problems have their melodramatic side.
Oh no. Really quickly, Dr. Chasuble has now exited the stage. Deadly Nightshade, do you want to hang tight to that?
Or he can do Merriman's line.
Perfect.
I'll keep it next time.
Okay. Horrid political economy, horrid geography, horrid German.
Mr. Earnest Warrington was just driven owner from his station. He's brought his luggage from him.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4 the Albany W.
Uncle Jack's brother. Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss. He seemed very strange, very much disappointed, and mentioned that you and Miss Prism were in the garden. That he was anxious to speak to you privately for a moment.
Ask Mr. Ernest Worthing to come here. I suppose you had better talk to the housekeeper about a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I've never met any really wicked person before. I feel rather frightened. I'm so afraid he will look just like everyone else. Oh, he does.
You are my little cousin, Cecily, I'm sure.
You are under some strange mistake. I am not little. In fact, I believe I am more than usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily. You, I see from your card, are Uncle Jack's brother, my cousin Ernest, my wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, I'm not really wicked at all, cousin Cecily. You mustn't think that I'm wicked.
If you are not, then you have certainly been deceiving us all in a very excusable manner. Inexcusable? Goodness me, need my glasses to see. I hope you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and being really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Of course. I have been rather reckless.
I am glad to hear it.
In fact, now you mention the subject, I have been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think you should be so proud of that, though I am sure it must have been very pleasant.
It is much pleasanter than being here with you.
I cannot understand how you are here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back till Monday afternoon.
That is a great disappointment. I'm obliged to go up by the first train on Monday morning. I have a business appointment that I am anxious to miss.
Couldn't you miss
Yes.
it anywhere but
Yes.
in London? Oh, what?
Arnold Schwarzenegger for Algernon.
Yes. No, the appointment is in London.
Well, I know, of course, how important it is not to keep a business engagement if one wants to retain any sense of beauty of life. But what? But still, I think you had better wait until Uncle Jack arrives. I know he wants to talk to you about your immigrating.
About my what?
You're emigrating. He has gone up to buy your outfit.
Oh, I certainly... Yeah, I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit.
Yeah. I don't think you will require neckties. Uncle is sending you to Australia.
Australia, I'd sooner die.
Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday night that you have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Well, the accounts I have received in Australia and the next world are not particularly encouraging. Yeah, this world is not good. It's good enough for me, Cousin Cecilia.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I am afraid I'm not that. That is why I want you to reform me. You make that your mission, if you don't mind, Cousin Cecilia.
I'm afraid I have no time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind my reforming myself this afternoon?
It is rather quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
I will. Yeah, I feel better already.
I think you're good,
you're
bud.
also British now.
That's okay, I'm gonna finish it.
You are looking a little worse.
Yeah, that's because I'm hungry.
How thoughtless of me. I should have remembered that when one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Oh, thank you. I might have a buttonhole first. I never have any appetite unless I have a buttonhole first.
Something French? Emotional nil?
No, I'd sooner have a pink rose.
Why?
Because you are like a pink rose, Cousin Cecily.
I don't think it can be right for you to talk to me like that. Miss Prism never says such things to me.
Then Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. You are the prettiest girl I ever saw.
Miss Prism says that all good looks are a snare.
They are a snare that every sensible man would like to be caught in.
Oh, I don't think I would care to catch such a sensible man. I shouldn't know what to talk to him about.
Miss Prism.
Sorry.
Miss Prism.
Paging Miss Prism. Places Miss Prism.
Places.
Places
Jacob.
Prism.
Heavens.
Jacob, are you here? Jacob.
You are too much alone, Dr. Chasuble. You should get married. A misanthrope I can understand. A womanthrope, never.
Believe me, I do not deserve so neologistic phrase. The precept as well as the practice of the primitive church was distinctly against matrimony.
That is obviously the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up to the present day. And you do seem to realize, Doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. Men should be more careful. This very celibacy leads weaker vessels astray.
But is a man not equally attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive except to his wife.
And often, I've been told, not even to her.
That depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can always be depended on. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women are green. I spoke horticulturally. My metaphor was drawn from fruits. But where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools.
Oh, Mr. Worthing.
Mr. Worthing?
Gilbert Gottfried.
And
for Chasuble.
Gilbert Gottfried for Chasuble.
Oh,
Awesome.
God, yes.
Yes.
This is indeed a surprise. We did not look for you till Monday afternoon.
I have returned sooner than I expected. Dr. Chasuble, I hope you are well.
Yeah, Mr. Worthing! I trust this gob of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother.
More shameful debts and extravagance?
Still leading his life of pleasure?
Dead.
Your brother Earnest dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
Well, Mr. Worthing, I offer you my sincere condolence. You have at least the consolation of knowing that you are always the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Poor Earnest. He had many faults, but it is a sad, sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad. In Paris, in fact. I had a telegram last night from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Charity, dear Miss Prism. Charity! None of us are perfect. I myself am peculiarly susceptible to droughts. Will the interment take place here?
No, he seemed to have expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris! Sorry.
You can be British again.
Okay.
I don't think he wants to.
An Kermit accent for cucumber.
Okie dokie.
There it is.
I do recommend that
I
Kermit
fear
for Ryan later.
Yeah, Ryan's
Oh my
a really
gosh,
good
yes.
Kermit.
Yeah.
Ryan's Kermit
I
is
fear that hardly points at any very serious state of mind at the last. You would no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion to the tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the manna and the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion, joyful or, as in the present case, distressing. I have preached it at harvest celebrations and christenings and confirmations, on days of humiliation and festal days. The last time I delivered it was in the cathedral as a charity sermon on behalf of the Society of the Prevention of Discontent among the upper orders. Yes, the bishop who was present was much struck by some of the analogies I drew.
Oh, that reminds me. You mentioned christenings, I think, Dr. Chasuble. I suppose you know how to christen, all right? Hmm? I mean, of course, you are continually christening, aren't you?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in this parish. I have often spoke to the poorer classes on the subject, but they don't seem to know what thrift is.
But is there any particular infant in whom you are interested, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was, I believe, unmarried, was he not?
Hi-ho, yes!
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But it is not for any child, dear doctor. I am very fond of children. No, the fact is I would like to be christened myself this afternoon if you have nothing better to do.
Oh, but surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already?
I don't remember anything about it.
But you have any grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly intended to have. Of course, I don't know if the thing would bother you in any way, or if you think I am a little too old now.
Well, not at all. The sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion!
You need no apprehensions. Sprinkling is all that is necessary, or indeed, I think, advisable. Our weather is so changeable. At what hour would you wish this ceremony performed?
Oh, I might trot around about 5, if that would suit you.
Oh, perfectly, yeah, perfectly.
Okay.
In fact, I have 2 similar ceremonies to perform at that time. A case of twins that occurred recently at one of the outlying cottages on your own estate. Poor Jenkins, the carter, a most hard-working man.
Oh, I don't see much fun in being christened along with other babies. It would be childish. Would 5:30 do?
Admirably. Now, dear Mr. Worthing, I will not intrude any longer into a house of sorrow. I would merely beg you not to be too much bowed down by grief. What seem to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
Oh, this seems to me a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Jack! Oh, I am pleased to see you back. Oh, but what horrid clothes you have on. Do go and change them.
Cecily!
Oh, my child!
What is the matter, Uncle Jack? Do look happy. You look as if you had a toothache, and I've got such a surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother!
I'm out. Let's see. Thank you for the $10 donations for TKH328 and Arsenal Roy 2K. We have a $10 donation for Ryan to do your Amber accent. We also have a $10 donation for Jack to do Randy Newman.
Oh, shit.
Amber, you might want to turn on Twitch right now.
Yeah, tune in right away. It's going to be great.
So I might be dead after this.
Amber, Brian's doing your voice.
It'll be worth it.
Oh my god, like.
You do Ryan and I'll do
Ryan, I got you.
I got your lines, Cucumber.
All right, cool. Who's up? Where are we?
Last line was who?
Who?
Who? Hold on. That one doesn't count. Let's start it. Okay, yeah. I said who already.
Your brother, Earnest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
What nonsense! I ever got a brother.
Don't say that. However badly he may have behaved to you in the past, he is still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I'll tell him to come out, and you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
Oh, these are very joyful tidings.
Oh my god, like after all this has been resigned of his loss, his sudden return seems to me like particularly distressing.
My brother is in the dining room. I don't know what it all means. I think it is perfectly absurd.
Jack.
Good heavens!
Brother John, I have come down from town to tell you that I'm very sorry for all the trouble I have given you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Jack, you are not going to refuse to shake your own brother's hand?
Nothing really induced me to take his hand. I think he's coming down here disgraceful. He knows perfectly well way.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. There is some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, who he goes to visit so often. And surely there must be much good in one who is kind to an invalid and leaves the pleasures of London to sit by in a bed of pain.
Oh, he has been talking about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he has told me all about poor Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Bunbury. Well, I won't have to talk to you about Bunbury or anything that was perfectly frantic.
You're good, Cucumber.
Thank
Of
God.
course, I admit that the faults were all on my side, but I must say that I think the Brother John's coldness to me is particularly painful. I expected a more enthusiastic welcome, especially considering it is the first time I have come here.
Oh, Uncle Jack, if you don't shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me?
Never, never, never.
Well, this is the last time I shall ever do it.
It's pleasant, is it not, to see so perfect a reconciliation. I think we might leave the two brothers together.
Cecily, you'll come with me. You will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over.
You have done a beautiful action today, dear child.
How? My God, we can't be premature in our judgments.
I feel very happy.
You young scoundrel, Algie, you must get out of this place as soon as possible. I don't allow any Bunburying here.
I've put Mr. Earnest things in the room next to you, sirs. I suppose that's all right?
What?
Mr. Earnest's luggage, sir. I have unpacked it and put it in the room next to yours.
His luggage?
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a large luncheon basket case.
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week at this time.
Merriman, order the dog cart at once. Mr. Earnest has been suddenly called back to town.
Yes, sir.
Well, what a filthy liar you are, Jack. I have not been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
I haven't heard anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the smallest degree.
I can quite understand that.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
You are not to talk of Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why on earth don't you go up and change? It's perfectly childish to be in deep mourning for a man who is actually staying for a whole week with you in your house as a guest. I call it grotesque.
You are certainly not staying with me for a whole week as a guest or anything else. You have got to leave by the 4:05 train.
I certainly will not leave you so long as you are in mourning. It would be most unfriendly. If I were in mourning, you would stay with me, I suppose. I should think it very unkind if you didn't.
Well, will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes. If you're not too long. I never saw anybody take so long to dress with such little result.
Well, at any rate, that is better than being always overdressed as you are.
If I am occasionally a little overdressed, I make up for it by always being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous, your conduct an outrage, and your presence in my garden utterly absurd. However, you have got to catch the 4:05, and I hope you'll have a pleasant journey back to town. This bunburying, as you call it, has not been a great success for you. Yes,
Apologies. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I cut in the middle of your monologue. Napoleon accent dynamite for you, Algie. Thank you.
Napoleon accent dynamite. Hold on. I'm thinking about that one. Does anybody remember what it sounds like?
Tina, eat your dinner. Gosh.
Okay. I think this has been great success. I'm in love with Cicely, and that is everything.
Okay.
But I must see her before I go and make arrangements for another bunberry. Ah, there she is.
Oh, I merely came back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He's gone to order the dog cart for me.
Oh, is he going to take you for a nice drive?
Oh, he's going to send me away.
Then we have got to part.
I'm afraid so. It's a very painful parting.
It is always painful to part from people whom one has only known for a very brief space of time. The absence of old friends one can The absence of old friends one can endure with equanimity. But even a momentary separation from anyone to whom one has been just introduced is almost unbearable.
Time. Art as Christopher Walken.
Thank you,
John, go get Art.
No,
Or you want to take this one?
I'll take it for him.
No, you're coming up next, Merriman.
Yeah, but Art's not here, though.
Yeah, Art's not here, so Chunks is going to take
So
it.
Chunk's going to do it for Art.
Got it.
Because Art wasn't invited.
I'm just reading what it says. I don't know. Yeah.
We got you.
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, thank you.
The dog cart is at the door, sir.
It can wait, Merriman, for 5 minutes.
Yes, miss.
I hope, Cecily, I shall not offend you. If I state quite frankly and open that you seem to me, but in every way, the invisible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you will allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I'd give anything to look at it, may I?
Oh, no.
Thank you.
What?
Go on.
Oh, no. You see, it is simply a very young girl's record of her own thoughts and impressions, and consequently meant for publication. When it appears in volume form, I hope you will bless you, darling. When it appears in volume form, I hope you'll order a copy. But pray, Ernest, don't stop. I delight in taking down from dictation. I have reached absolute perfection. You can go on. I'm quite ready for more. Oh, don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell a cough.
Cecily, ever since I first looked upon you and your wonderful, incomparable beauty, I have dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, and hopelessly. Not help. Hope.
I don't think you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily!
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Tell it to come around next week at the same hour.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Jack would be very annoyed if he knew you were staying on till next week at the same hour.
Oh, I don't care about Jack. I don't care for anybody in the whole world but you. I love you, Cecily. Will you marry me, won't you?
You silly boy, of course. Why, we have been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months?
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who is very wicked and bad, you, of course, have formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And, of course, a man who is much talked about is always very attractive. One feels there must be something in him after all. I dare say it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Darling, and when was this engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last.
Okay. Yeah.
Algernon, Jack Nicholson for you.
Great. Great.
Damn.
Oh, man.
On the 14th of February last, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to end the matter one way or another, and after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear old tree here. The next day,
Oh.
Excuse you.
Hey, you're not supposed to cough when we're dictating.
Yeah, you said it yourself.
Pretty sure.
I can cough and dictate at the same time. I'm the dictator. The next day, I bought this ring in... What?
Nothing, go on.
I bought this little ring in your name, and this is the little bangle with the true lover's knot I promised you always to wear.
And I gave you this. It's very pretty, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, you've wonderfully good taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I've always given for your leading such a bad life. And this is the box in which I keep all your dear letters.
My letters? But in my own sweet Cecily, I have never written you any letters.
You need hardly remind me of that, Ernest. I remember only too well that I was forced to write your letters for you. I wrote always 3 times a week, and sometimes oftener.
Oh, do let me read them, Cecily.
Oh, I couldn't possibly. They would make you far too conceited. The 3 you wrote me after I had broken off the engagement are so beautiful, and so badly spelled that even now I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But was our engagement ever broken off?
Of course it was. On the 22nd of last March. You can see the entry if you like. Today, I broke off my engagement with Earnest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather still continues charming.
But why on earth did you break it off? What had I done? Had I done nothing at all? Cecily, I'm very much hurt indeed to hear that you broke it off. Particularly when the weather was so charming.
You're all good, Brian.
Thanks. I don't even know if that was close.
Nope.
The first one was pretty good. It was like young Nicholson. And then... You did fine.
Yeah, I was like, you have a chance with Devil in the Pale Moonlight. That's what I was going for. I started to go for that. Anyway.
As good as my Christopher Walken.
Yes, I accept that.
It would hardly have been a really serious engagement if it hadn't been broken off at least once. But I forgave you before the week was out.
Okay.
Oh, time out.
Jeff Bridges.
Cecily,
Jeff
Bridges.
Bridges.
Oh,
Yes.
Rick, hang
That's
on.
awesome.
Cecily.
Hang on. Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges.
Think of the dude, I guess.
Obadiah
I know.
Stain.
I
The
know, I'm like the
dude.
dude.
What the scratch?
Kevin Flynn.
Just
Kevin Flynn. Yeah.
I think she's listening to a sample.
El Duderino or brevity thing.
no, he's just called a dude.
Employee?
Oh, it's time to sing too.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm on YouTube.
Holy
What?
shit.
That's okay. Just
And you're gonna sing as the dude.
And you have to do jumping jacks.
How do I do?
Tony Stark, man. Built it in a cave.
able to build this in a cave.
With a block
That's Jeff.
Says man
That's
after
Jeff
every
Bridges.
sentence.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges.
Okay. Tony Stark. No, say it one more time.
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark.
Well, he's just really laid back, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, real Jeff Bridges
man.
is just, yeah, imagine he just took a hit and he was at the beach for a long time and got dried out into a human piece of jerky. And that is Jeff Bridges.
I will try my damnedest. With jumping jacks? Is that what you said?
singing. With singing.
I thought someone said with jumping
Sure,
jacks.
jumping jacks. Fuck it. I
I'll
don't
do
know.
it. Fuck, I don't know.
You're fine.
Fuck. Oh, you go first. You go first.
It's your line.
Is it?
Yeah.
But I can back
Sing
up
it.
the line.
Yeah, say what a perfect angel you are, please.
All right. What a perfect angel you are, Cicely.
Bruh, I don't know. You dear romantic boy. I hope your hair curls naturally, does it?
Yes, darling, with a little help from others.
I'm so glad.
You'll never break up our engagement again, Cicely.
I don't think I could break it off now that I've actually met. Besides, of course, there is the question of your name.
Yes, of course.
Oh, how many more lines do I have, Haley? Okay. You must not laugh at me, dude, but it had always been this girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name was Earnest. There is something in that name that seems to inspire absolute confidence. A pity and a poor woman married whose husband, his name is no.
But my dear child, do you mean to say you could not love me if I had some other name?
But what name, dude?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
But I don't like the name of Algernon, although I am a little bit fond of Algernon.
Well, my own dear, sweet, loving little darling, I really can't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It is not all a bad name. In fact, it is rather an aristocratic name. Half of the chaps who get into bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But seriously, Cicely, or Cecily, if my name was Algie, couldn't you love me?
I quite wonder if anyone is timing this. I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I fear that I should not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cicely, your rector here is, I suppose, thoroughly experienced in the practice of all the rites and ceremonials of the church.
Oh, yes. Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man. He has never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must see him at once on a most important christening. I mean, on most important business.
Oh!
I shan't be away more than half an hour.
Is this still 5 minutes?
Yes, keep
okay. Considering that we have been engaged since the 14th of February, I meant to say February the 14th, and that I have only met you today for the first time, I think it is rather hard that you should leave me for so long a period as half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
What an impetuous boy he is! I like his hair so much. I must enter his proposal. My diary.
All right, no more singing. We're out.
Right.
Merriman, you still have 3 lines in whatever your last accent was.
Yeah. Miss Fairfax has called to see Mr. Worthington on a very important business. Fairfax states.
Is it Mr. Worthing in his library?
Mr. Worthington went over there in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Pray, ask the lady to come here. Mr. Worthing is sure to be back soon, and you can bring tea.
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax, I suppose one of the many good elderly women who are associated with Uncle Jack in some philanthropic work in London. I don't quite like women who are interested in philanthropic work. I think it is so forward of them.
Miss Fairfax?
Pray, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew? What a sweet name. Something tells me we are going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong.
All right. Donation.
Yes.
For Gwendolyn.
Joe Pesci as Gwen.
Or Danny DeVito, whichever you can do better.
You can do both.
Okay. Okay.
How nice of you to like me after bloop 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 bloop. How nice of you to like me so much after we have known each other such a comparatively short time. Please sit down.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
With pleasure.
And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
If you wish.
Then that is all settled, is it not?
I hope so.
Perhaps this might be a favorable opportunity for my mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You've heard of Papa, I suppose.
Jim Carrey accent for Cecily.
That's nice.
Yes.
Ace Ventura.
Liar, liar.
Liar, you know, cable guy.
Dumb and Dumber.
I want to
Worst, it's been so long since I've seen it.
Very over the top. Well, that's him doing William Shatner.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to. Sorry, it's been a million years since I've seen any Jim Carrey. I'm trying to. Help me out, someone.
We were trying.
Oh, sorry. Just over the top.
Alrighty then.
Okay, yeah.
Alrighty then. Yeah.
That's not. No, I haven't seen Ace Ventura for like 20 years. Sorry.
Living Color?
That's even further back.
That'll be the one she saw.
No, the last thing I saw was Eternal Sunshine, but that doesn't really count. Yeah, I'm like, that doesn't work. Okay. Over the top. I'm just gonna, I don't even know what I'm gonna do. This is gonna be interesting. Okay.
Fireman.
I hope so! Sorry, honey. Tara just went like,
oh my family circle, Papa, I am glad to say, is entirely unknown. I think that is quite as should be. The home seems to me to be a proper sphere for a man, and certainly once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, does he not? And I don't like that. It makes men so very attractive. Cecily, Mama, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. It is part of her system. So do you mind my looking at through my gotta put my glasses on. So do you mind my looking at you through my glasses?
Sorry, y'all, I haven't watched the live cringe either. Oh, not at all, Gwendolyn. I'm very fond of being looked at.
You are here on a very short visit, I suppose.
Oh no, I live here.
Really? Your mother, no doubt, or some female relative of advanced years resides here also?
Oh no, I have no mother, nor in fact any relations.
Indeed.
My dear guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
Yes, I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Diva, you're good.
It's strange. He never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. I'm not sure, however, that the news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight. I am very fond of you, Cecily. I have liked you ever since I met you, but I am bound to state that now that I know you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I cannot help expressing a wish you were, well, just a little older than you seem to be, and not quite so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly...
Pray do. I think that whenever one has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid.
Well, to speak with perfect candor, Cecily, I wish you were fully 42 and more usually plain for your age. Earnest has a strong, upright nature. He is the very soul of truth and honor. Disloyalty would be as impossible to him as deception. But even men as the noblest of possible moral character are extremely susceptible to the influence of the physical charms of others. Modern, no less than ancient history, supplies us with many most painful examples of what I referred to. If I were not so, indeed, history would be quite, unreadable.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Earnest?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Pardon?
Oh.
I had too many sandwiches.
Disgusting.
You need to stick to the bread and butter.
Points.
Yeah, that was good.
Rocky Raccoon.
Rocket.
For Gwendolyn. Rocket. Sorry, my brain is in the Beatles. Rocket for Gwen.
Okay. Are you doing my lines? You can track.
Yeah.
Oh, but it is not Mr. Earnest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother, his elder brother.
Ernest never mentioned to me he had a brother.
I am sorry to say that they have not been on good terms for a long while.
Ah, that accounts for it. And now I think of it, I've never heard any man mention his brother. The subject seems distasteful to most men. Cecily, you've lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. I would have been terrible if a cloud had come across a friendship like ours. Would it not? Of course, you are quite sure that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian?
Quite sure.
In fact, I am going to be his.
I beg your pardon?
Dearest Gwendolyn, there is no reason why I should make it a secret to you. Our little county news. What?
I was telling them page 61. Someone asked in the chat.
Thank you. Our little county newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact next week. Mr. Earnest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
My darling Cecily, I think there must be some slight error. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will appear in the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest.
I am afraid you must be under some misconception. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It is very curious, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you would care to verify the incident, pray do so. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read in the train. I'm so sorry, dear Cecily, if this is any disappointment to you, but I'm afraid I have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I can tell you, dear Gwendolyn, if it caused you any mental or physical anguish, but I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to you, he clearly has changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been entrapped into any foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have gotten into, I will never reproach him with it after we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest...
Pause.
Cal Surfer.
For both what?
For Cecily.
Thanks, Steph.
All right.
Thank you.
Is that one counting? Yeah, cool.
Gotcha.
Yeah, sure. Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement, brah? Like, how dare you? This is no time for wearing the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call a spade.
I am glad to say that I have never seen a spade. It is obvious that our social spheres have been widely different.
Shall I lay the tea here as usual, miss?
Sure, as usual. And he lays the tea.
There's a long pause.
Sorry. I lost my spot.
No,
Cecily
there
and
is
Gwendolyn glare at each other.
there is a long pause. Yeah.
Are there many interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Yeah, a great many. From the top of one of the hills, quite close, one can see 5 counties.
Chewbacca accent for Gwendolyn.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you, Hardliner. It's perfect.
I suppose that is why you live in town, brah. So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
You're good.
Thanks.
Oh, flowers are common here, Miss Fairfax, as people are in London. What? This is what the newspapers call agricultural depression, is it not? I believe the aristocracy are suffering very much from it just at present. It is almost an epidemic amongst them, I have been told. May I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Sugar? Cake or bread and butter?
Good.
Okay. Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen at the best houses nowadays. All about that keto bitch.
Hand that to Miss Fairfax.
You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar, and though I asked most distinctly for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I felt you were false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such manners. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I am trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you may have other calls of a similar character to make in the neighborhood.
Ernest, my own Ernest.
Gwendolyn, darling!
Moment.
What was that?
Adam
Sandler.
Oh, shit.
Happy doobie.
Oh my god, okay.
A moment. May I ask if you are engaged to be married to this young lady?
To dear old Cecily? Of course not. Well, could put such an idea in your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I knew there must be some misunderstanding, Miss Fairfax. The gentleman whose arm is at present around your waist is my dear guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon?
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack? Oh, no.
Here is Ernest.
My own love.
A moment, Ernest. May I ask you, are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To what young lady? Good heavens, Gwendolyn?
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolyn. I mean, to Gwendolyn.
Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may kiss me.
I felt there was some slight error, Miss Cardew. The gentleman who is now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief? Oh! Are you called Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Oh.
Is your name really John?
I could deny it if I like. I could deny anything if I liked. But my name is certainly John. It has been John for years.
It sounds like Timmy from South Park.
Damn it.
Gross deception has been practiced upon both of us.
My poor, wounded Cecily.
My sweet, wronged Gwendolyn.
You will call me sister, will you not?
There is just one question I would like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. Mr. Worthing, that is just one question I would like to be permitted to put to you. Where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest. So it is a matter of some importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it is very painful to me to speak the truth. It is the first time in my life that I have ever been reduced to such a painful position, and I am really quite inexperienced in doing anything of the kind. I will tell you quite frankly that I have no brother. I have no brother at all. I have never had a brother in my life. I certainly have not had the smallest intention of ever having one in the future.
No brother at all.
None.
Had you never had a brother of any kind?
Never, not even of any kind.
I am afraid it is quite clear, Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
It is not a very pleasant. It is not a very pleasant position for a young girl to suddenly find herself in, is it?
Let us go into the house. They will hardly venture to come after us there.
No, men are so cowardly, aren't they?
Well,
Colonel Sanders.
For me. Okay. That was me?
Yes,
What count it?
Ghastly state.
This ghastly state of things is what you call Bunburying, I suppose.
Yes, and a perfectly wonderful Bunbury it is. The most wonderful Bunbury I've ever had in my life.
Well, if you've no right whatsoever to Bunbury here.
That is absurd. One has a right to Bunbury anywhere one chooses. Every serious Bunburyist knows that.
Serious Bunburyist, good heavens.
Well, one must be serious about something if one wants to have any amusement in life. I happen to be serious about Bunburying. What on earth are you serious about? I haven't got the remotest idea about everything I should fancy. You have such an absolutely trivial nature.
Well, the only small satisfaction I have in the whole world of this wretched business is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You won't be able to run down the country quite so often as you used to do, dear Algy, and a very good thing, too.
Your brother is a little off color, isn't he, dear Jack? You won't be able to disappear into London quite so frequently as your wicked custom was, and not a bad thing either.
As for your conduct toward Miss Cardew, I must say that you're talking in a sweet, simple, innocent girl like this, quite inexcusable, to say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
There you go, you're done.
I can see no possible defense at all for your deceiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax, to say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
I want to be engaged to Gwendolen, that is all. I love her.
Well, I simply want to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
There is certainly no chance of your marrying Miss Cardew.
Ha! I don't think there's much likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
Well, that is no business of yours.
If it was my business, I wouldn't talk about it at all. It's very vulgar to talk about one's business. Only people like stockbrokers do that, and then merely at dinner parties.
You sit there calmly eating muffins when we are in this horrible trouble. I can't make out. You seem to be perfectly heartless.
Well, I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner. The butter would probably get on my cuffs. One should always eat muffins quite calmly. It is the only way to eat them. Time out.
And timing out, we have a Groot accent for Jack.
I am Groot. I'm Groot. Groot, I am Groot.
Let's make sure we Yep, here we go.
When I'm in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I am really great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything except for food and drink. At the present moment, I am eating muffins because I am unhappy. Besides, I am particularly fond of muffins.
I am Groot. I am Groot, Groot, I am Groot.
I wish you would have tea cake instead. I don't like tea cake.
I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot.
But you have just said it was perfectly heartless to eat muffins.
I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot.
Well, that may be, but the muffins are the same.
I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot.
You can't possibly ask me to go out without having some dinner. It's absurd. I never go out without my dinner. No one ever does, except vegetarians and people like that. Besides, I have just made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 5:45 under my name Earnest.
You're now Pikachu, Algernon.
No, really?
And I'm done, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I am. Okay.
Great.
Yeah, you're done.
My dear fellow, the sooner you give up that nonsense, the better. I made arrangements this morning with Dr. Chasuble to be christened myself at 5:30, and I naturally will take the name of Earnest. Gwendolyn would wish it. We can't both be christened Earnest. It's absurd. Besides, I have a perfect right to be christened if I like. There is no evidence at all that I should ever be christened by anybody. I should think it's extremely probable I never was, and so does Dr. Chasuble. It is entirely different in your case. You have been christened already.
Pika? Pika, Pika, Pika. Pikachu.
Yes, but you have been christened. That is the important thing.
Pika, Pika, Pika. Pikachu, Pika. Pikachu, Pika, Pika, Pika. Pikachu, Chu, Pika, Pika, Pikachu. Pikachu, Pikachu.
Yes, but you said yourself that a severe chill was not hereditary.
Pikachu, Pikachu.
Oh, that is nonsense. You are always talking nonsense.
Yeah. Pika, Pika, Pika. Pikachu, Pika, Pika.
But I hate tea cake.
Pika, Pikachu, Pika, 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 Pika.
Algernon, I have already told you to go. I don't want you here. Why don't you go?
Jack is now Darth Vader.
Well, you want to do that same line again? We're at the end. This is the end of the act here.
Mm-hmm.
We got one more act, right? Are we not in it?
Well,
There's one more. There's one more act in you, so you were both in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll wait. I'll save it for the next.
Okay. Am I still on the Pikachu?
No, you're done.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I haven't quite finished my tea yet, and there's still one muffin left.
And curtain before Act 3.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Oh, hey, we hit another song. So we're going to start off this next act with singing Darth Vader and whoever else within the 5 minutes.
Hilarious.
Okay. I will put on my timer. Okay. Would someone like to let us know where Act 3
I will.
takes place? Thank you.
Act 3. Scene. Morning room at the manor house. Gwendolyn and Cecily are at the window looking out into the garden.
The fact that they did not follow me at once into the house, as anyone else would have done, seems to me to show that they have some sense of shame left.
And pausing the timer really quick, it looks like $50. Everyone is swapping roles again. Do we all remember who we were before?
Are we going to do the same ones?
Am I now Darth Vader Gwendolyn?
Yep.
Awesome. Okie dokie.
And I'm Cecily.
You are
right?
Cecily.
Oh,
Mhm.
great. Cool.
I'm not going to do anything.
No, me neither. Okay, and resuming the timer. Here we go.
They have been eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
They don't seem to notice us at all. Couldn't you cough?
But I haven't a cough.
They're looking at us. Water front away.
Oh, they're approaching. That's very forward of them.
Let us preserve our dignified silence.
Thanks for the rain.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for the rain.
Thank you for the rain.
Welcome.
Welcome. Suddenly, it's the only thing to do now.
This dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect.
A most distasteful one.
But we will not be the first to speak.
Oh, certainly not.
Jar Jar for Cecily.
Mr. Worthing, I have something very particular to ask you. Much depends on your reply.
Easter Gwendolyn, your promise is unviable. But Moncrief currently answered me.
Yes, keep going. More.
Why did you prefer to be my goddess brother?
In order that I might have the opportunity of meeting you.
That certainly that makes sense. Satisfactory explanation.
Like Elmo.
Raid, you arrived at a very interesting time. We'll explain that.
Cucumber sounds like Fez from Princess Bride.
Oh. Gwendolyn.
What?
Yep.
Yes, dear.
Yes, my dear, if you can believe him.
Misa don't, but that does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
Cucumber, you're good.
Oh, thank goodness.
Still singing though.
And yes, but are we not switching back?
Still singing.
That would have exceeded our minute. So it's you again. No, we're still singing.
We're still singing.
No,
okay.
Oh, sorry.
The clock is paused. Still singing, but we've switched roles again.
No.
My father.
No Darth Vader, right?
Got it.
Are we still
Am I on true?
I think we only switched for a minute though too.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, we have been abiding by that.
Okay.
Okay. Go.
Okay. True, in a matter of grave importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing, Mr. Worthing. What explanation can you offer for pretending to have a brother? What in order that you might have an opportunity of coming up to town to see me as often as possible?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. This is not the moment for German skepticism. Their explanations appear to be quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. That seems to me to have the stamp of truth upon it.
I am more than content with what Mr. Moncrief said. His voice alone inspires one with absolute credulity.
Then do you think we should forgive them?
Yes! I mean,
No.
True, I had forgotten. There are principles at stake that one cannot surrender. Which of us should tell them? The task is not a pleasant one.
could we not both speak at the same time?
An excellent idea. I nearly always speak at the same time as other people. Will you take the time from me?
Certainly. Your Christian name us
still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
And we're at 5 minutes.
I want to do the next part.
Let's sing it anyway. Christian names is that all, but we are going to be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, are you prepared to do this terrible thing?
We're done singing.
Oh, we're done? Okay.
That was good.
Oh, yeah.
Really pretty.
Really nice. Way into it. There's like Phantom of the Opera there for a minute.
Yeah, I am. You and I like high five. Yeah,
Boom.
In this moment, since we're done with this song, for those of you who just rated us, new folks here, we are currently reading through The Importance of Being Earnest, and all the interactive bits are at the bottom. You caught us in the middle of a song because we had hit a goal. So that's what happened. You're welcome. We go back. I am. To please me.
Whose line is it?
Yours.
Oh. To please me, are you ready to face this fearful ordeal?
I am.
How absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned. Men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
They have moments of physical courage of which we women know absolutely nothing.
Darling!
Lady Bracknell?
Good heavens!
Gwendolyn, what does this mean?
Merely that I am engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mama.
Swap.
Oh, swap again?
Yep.
For a full swap. For a
sorry.
full swap.
Sorry.
Yeah, there was a full swap. Did we not all? Well, we did. There just weren't a lot of characters in that moment.
Yeah. So we did, and then it translated through the end.
To the song. So we did it for 5 minutes, about ish.
Sorry. You very good?
Gwendolyn?
Okay. No, it's my turn, I think.
Oh, your turn?
Yes.
Go.
Come here. Sit down. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young, of physical weakness in the old. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased by means of a small coin. I followed her at once by a luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I am glad to say, under the impression that she is attending a more than usually lengthy court lecture of the University Extension Scheme on the influence of a permanent income on thought. I do not propose to undeceive him. Indeed, I have never undeceived him on any question. I would consider it wrong. But, of course, if you will clearly understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately from this moment. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm.
I am engaged to be married to Gwendolyn, Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now, as regards Algernon. Algernon.
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
May I ask if it is in this house that your invalid friend Mr. Bunbury resides?
No, Mr. Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at the present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Ted? When did Mr. Bunbury die?
What? Lady Bracknell now has a Jerry Seinfeld accent.
Oh, God. Okay. I just dropped everything.
What's the deal with that?
Ted? When did Mr. Bunbury die? His death must have been extremely sudden.
Oh, I killed Mr. Bunbury this afternoon. I mean, poor Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Bunbury? Oh, he was quite exploded.
Exploded? Was he the victim of a revolutionary outrage? What's the deal with revolutionary outrages? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If so, he is well punished of his morbidity.
My dear Aunt Augusta, I mean he was found out. The doctors found out that Bunbury could not live, and that is what I mean. So Bunbury died.
He seems to have had great confidence in opinion of his physicians. I'm glad, however, that he made up his mind at last to something. I'm sorry, lost right now. I'm glad, however, that he made up his mind at the last to some definite course of action and acted under proper medical advice. And now that we have finally got rid of this Mr. Bunbury, may I ask, Mr. Worthing, who is that young person whose hand my nephew Algernon is holding in what seems to be peculiarly unnecessarily manner?
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I am engaged to be married to Cecily. Aunt Augusta?
I
I beg your pardon.
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married, Lady Bracknell.
Sorry. I do not know whether there is anything peculiarly exciting in the air of this particular part of Hertfordshire, but the number of engagements that go on seems to be considerably above the proper average that statistics have laid down for our guidance. I think some preliminary inquiry on my part would not be out of place. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew at all connected with any of the larger railway stations in London? I merely desire information. Until yesterday, I had no idea that there were any families or persons whose origin was a terminus.
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, Southwest Gervais Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporran, Fifeshire, North Britain.
Oh, that sounds not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen. But what proof have I of their authenticity?
Pause. Jack gets to do Kenny from South Park. Thanks, TKH.
I have known some strange errors in that publication. Markby and Markby, a firm of the very highest position in their profession. Indeed, I am told that one of the Mr. Markbys is occasionally to be seen at dinner parties. So far, I am satisfied. A life crowded with incident, I see, though perhaps somewhat too exciting for a young girl. I am not myself in favor of premature experiences. Gwendolen, the time approaches for our departure. We have not a moment to lose. As a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, I had better ask you if Miss Cardew has any little fortune. A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000, and in the funds. Miss Cardew seems to me a most attractive young lady, now that I look at her. Few girls of the present day have any really solid qualities, any of the qualities that last and improve with time. We live, I regret to say, in an age of surfaces. Come over here, dear. Oh, pretty child. Your dress is sadly simple, and your hair seems almost as nature might have left it. But we can soon alter that. A thoroughly experienced French maid produces a really marvelous result in very brief space time. I remember recommending one to young Lady Lansing, and after 3 months, her own husband did not know her.
You're good, Cucumber.
Kindly turn around, sweet child. No, the side view is what I want. Yes, quite as I expected. There are distinct social possibilities in your profile. The 2 weak points in our age are its want of principle and its want of profile. The chin a little higher, dear. Style largely depends on the way the chin is worn. They are worn very high just at present. Algernon?
Yep. Augusta?
I called you. Answer when I call you. There are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the sweetest, the dearest, the prettiest girl in the whole world, and I don't care 2 pence about social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that. Dear child, of course you know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend on, but I do not approve of mercenary marriages. When I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of any kind. But I never dreamed for a moment of allowing that to stand in my way. Well, I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may also address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The marriage, I think, had better take place quite soon.
Oh, thank you, Aunt Augusta. Cecily.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you. To speak quite frankly, I am not in favor of long engagements, and they give people the opportunity of finding each other's character before marriage, which I think is never advisable.
Beg your pardon for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but this engagement is quite out of the question. I am Miss Cardew's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of age. That consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is an extremely, I may almost say ostentatiously eligible young man. He has nothing, but he looks everything. What more can one desire?
It pains me very much to speak frankly to you, Lady Bracknell, about your nephew, but the fact is I do not approve at all of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He is an Oxonian.
I fear there can be no other possible doubt about the matter. This afternoon, during my temporary absence in London, on an important question of romance, he obtained admission to my house by means of the false pretense of being my brother. Under an assumed name, he drank, I've just been informed by my butler, an entire pint bottle of my Perrier Jouet Brut 89, a wine I was specifically reserving for myself. Continuing his disgraceful deception, he'd succeeded in the course of the afternoon of alienating the affections of my only ward. He subsequently stayed to tea and devoured every single muffin, and what makes his conduct all the more heartless is that he was perfectly well aware from the first that I have no brother, that I never had a brother, and that I don't intend to have a brother, not of any kind. I distinctly told him so myself yesterday afternoon.
Mr. Worthing, after careful consideration, I've decided to entirely overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
That is very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. My own decision, however, is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
Come here, sweet child. How old are you, dear?
Well, I am really only 18, but I always admit to 20 when I go to evening parties.
You are perfectly right in making some slight alteration. Indeed, no women should ever be quite accurate about her age. It looks so calculating. 18. But admitting 20 at evening parties, well, it will not be very long before you are of age and free from the restraints of tutelage. I don't think your guardian's consent is, after all, a matter of any importance.
Pray excuse me, Lady Bracknell, for interrupting you again, but it is only fair to tell you that according to the terms of her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not come legally of age till she is 35.
Well, that does not seem to me to be a grave objection. 35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women of the very highest birth who have, of their own free choice, remained 35 for years. Lady Dumbleton is an instance in point. To my knowledge, she has been 35 ever since she arrived at the age of 40. Which was many years ago now. I see no reason why our dear Cecily should not be even more attractive at the age you mentioned that she is at present. There will be a large accumulation of property.
And pausing for a moment. Thank you, TKH328, for your donation of $20. We are now at 100, so we will wait for 5 minutes. And if we can please have Ryan's Kermit for one line and Cucumber's game show host accent for those $10.
For one line?
I have a game show host accent?
You do now.
I sure do.
And then Ryan's Kermit, if Ryan
Do you
has
have any lines left, Ryan?
I have some lines as Miss Prism.
Yeah, later. Yeah, okay. Then use them then.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start the timer. And here we go.
Algie, could you wait for me till I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I felt it instinctively, but I couldn't wait all that time. I hate waiting even for 5 minutes for anybody. It always makes me rather cross. I am not punctual myself, I know, but I do like punctuality in others, and waiting, even to be married, is quite out of the question.
Then what is to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
My dear Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew states positively that she cannot wait until she is 35, a remark which I am bound to say seems to me to show somewhat impatient nature. I would beg of you to reconsider your decision.
But my dear Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your own hands. The moment you consent to end my marriage with Gwendolyn, I will most gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
You must be quite aware that you must be quite aware that what you propose is out of the question.
Then no, boop, beep, boop. That a passionate celibacy is all that any of us can look forward to.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolyn. Algernon, of course, can choose for himself. Come, dear, we have already missed 5, if not 6 trains. To miss any more might expose us to comment on the platform.
Everything is quite ready for the christenings.
The christening, sir, is not that somewhat premature?
Both these gentlemen have expressed a desire for immediate baptism here.
At their age, the idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. I will not hear of such excesses. Lord Bracknell would be highly displeased if he learned that was in the way which you wasted your time and money.
Am I to understand then that there are to be no christenings at all after this afternoon?
I don't think that as things are now, it would be of much practical value to either of us, Dr. Chasuble.
I am grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. They savor of the heretical views of the Anabaptists, views that I have completely refuted in 4 of my unpublished sermons. However, as your present mood seems to be one peculiar secular, I will return to the church at once. Indeed, I have just been informed by the pew opener that for the last hour and a half, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Miss Prism? Did I hear you mention a Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I am on my way to join her.
Pray, allow me to detain you for a moment. This matter may prove to be of vital importance to Lord Bracknell and myself. Is this Miss Prism a female repellent aspect remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of the ladies, and the very picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
I am a celibate, madame.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell has been for the last 3 years Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
In spite of what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She is nigh.
I was told to expect me in the vestry.
Kermit!
I know.
I forgot about that.
10 seconds and then you can speak.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Yep.
And the 5 minutes is over.
Get one line in it.
You got 1 sentence, yeah.
I have been waiting for you there for an hour and 3/4.
Prism? Come here, Prism. Prism, where is that baby? 28 years ago, Prison, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104, Upper Grosvenor Street, in charge of a in charge of a perambulator that contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. A few weeks later, although the elaborate investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was discovered at midnight, standing by itself in a remote corner of Bayswater. Ugh. It contained the manuscript of a 3-volume novel of more than usually revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not there. Prism? Where's the baby?
Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. I only wish I did. Plain fact of the case are these. On the morning of the day you mentioned, a day that I forever branded in my memory, I prepared, as usual, to take the baby out of its perambulator.
Yeah. Go on.
And I had to also with me somewhat old but capacious handbag in which I had intended to place the manuscript of a work of fiction.
Where'd Kermit go?
Kermit went to India.
You can do this, Ryan.
Almost there. You're almost there.
Just 6 more lines.
That I had written during my free, unoccupied hours, in a moment of mental abstraction, for which I can never forgive myself. I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and placed the baby in the handbag.
But where did you deposit the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prism, this is a matter of no small importance to me. I insist on knowing where you deposited the handbag that contained that infant.
Let's see. I left it in a cloakroom of one of the larger railway stations in London.
What railway station?
Victoria. The Brighton line.
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolyn, wait here for me.
If you are not too long, I will wait here for you all my life.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
And not even suspect, Dr. Chasuble. I need hardly tell you that in families of high position, strange coincidences are not supposed to occur. They are hardly considered the thing.
Oh, Jack seems strangely agitated.
Your guardian has a very emotional nature.
This noise is extremely unpleasant. It sounds as if he is having an argument. I dislike arguments of any kind. They are always vulgar and often convincing.
It is stopped now.
I wish you would arrive at some conclusion.
The suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
Is this the handbag, Miss Prism? Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
I'm still Kermit, right?
No.
No,
I think
You're free.
Welcome to
Technically, Ryan, technically you have 2 more lines as Heather. I mean, Amber.
That's true. It's your Amber now. Amber now.
Okay. Fair
Or
enough.
Heather Amber.
Yeah, it seems to be mine. Yeah, this is the injury it received through the upsetting of a Gower Street omnibus in a younger and a happier day. Here's a stain on the lining caused by the explosion of a temperance beverage. An incident occurred, at Leamington.
Amber can read, Ryan. Amber can read.
I know, but Ryan can't, so.
Always have to make it sound like a question.
And here on the lock are my initials. I forgot. I had forgotten that. In an exaggerated mood, I had been them placed there. Bag is undoubtedly mine. I'm delighted to have it restored to me.
Okay, Guinness.
It has been a great inconvenience being without it all those years.
Miss Prism, more is restored to you than this handbag. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes! Mother!
Oh my god, stop it. I'm unmarried.
Unmarried, I do not deny that this is a serious blow, but after all, who has the right to cast a stone against one who has suffered? Cannot repentance wipe out an act of folly? Why should there be one law for men and another for women? Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing, there's some error. There is the lady who can tell you who you really are.
You're good, Ryan.
Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive, but would you kindly inform me who I am?
I am afraid that the news I have to give you will not altogether please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother. Then I have a brother after all. I knew I had a brother. I always said I had a brother. Cecily, how could you have ever doubted that I had a brother? Dr. Chasuble, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother. Algy, you young scoundrel, you will have to treat me with more respect in the future. You have never behaved to me like a brother in all your life.
Well, not till today, old boy, I admit it. I did my best, however, though I was out of practice.
My own, but what own are you? What is your Christian name now that you've become someone else?
Good heavens, I had quite forgotten that point. Your decision on the subject of my name is irrevocable, I suppose.
I never change, except in my affections.
What a noble nature you have, Gwendolyn.
Then the question had better be cleared up at once. Aunt Augusta, a moment. At the time when Miss Prism left me in the handbag, had I been christened already?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, had been lavished on you by your fond and doting parents.
Then I was christened. That is settled. Now, what name was I given? Let me know the worst.
Well, being the eldest son, you were naturally christened after your father.
Yes, but what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot at present moment recall what the general's Christian name was, but I have no doubt he had one. He was eccentric, I admit, but only in later years, and that was the result of the Indian climate and marriage and indigestion and other things of that kind.
Algy, can't you recollect what our father's Christian name was?
My dear boy, we were never even on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
His name would appear on the army lists of the period, I suppose, Aunt Augusta?
The general was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life, but I have no doubt his name would appear in any military directory.
The army lists of the last 40 years are here. These delightful records should have been my constant study. M. Generals, Malum, Maxwell, Magley, what ghastly names they have. Markley, Migsby, Mobbs, Moncrief. Lieutenant, 1840. Captain, Lieutenant Colonel, Colonel, General, 1869. Christian names, Earnest, John. I always told you, Gwendolyn, my name was Earnest, didn't I? Well, it is Earnest after all. I mean, it is naturally Earnest.
Yes, I remember that the general was called Earnest. I knew I had some particular reason for disliking the name.
Ernest, my own Ernest. I felt from the first that you could have no other name.
Gwendolyn, it is a terrible thing for a man to find out suddenly that all his life he has been speaking nothing but the truth. Can you forgive me?
I can, for I feel that you are sure to change.
My own one.
Letitia.
Frederick, at last.
Cecily, at last.
Gwendolyn, at last.
My nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I've now realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.
Oh, he said it! Said it!
Okay, I'll take a company bow.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Where'd you get roses from?
Magic?
Adoring fans.
So good. Yes, my cat.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing.
Hooray!
This is the best reading of Earnest I've ever seen.
That was the only reading of Earnest I've ever seen.
Same. I've never seen this play before.
Yeah, so
this is a cold read for me.
I was gonna say for a majority of people here, this was the first time they were laying eyes on the text. So this was a cold read, and it was amazing. It was amazing.
Thank you, and good job to Dino, who we had a last minute change of cast. So Dino, great job.
Oh, thank you.
Drunk, good job with the changes.
I never read it before, so tell me no matter what.
If I can, because this is something we're wanting to do again, yeah. If there are any public domain plays that y'all would love to see, why don't you drop us a line on Twitter or Instagram?
Discord.
The Discord. Show suggestions.
Do the Discord. Show suggestions in Discord, and we would love to do those.
I mean, maybe not Shakespeare, because we might kind of butcher it, but
great.
With
I think we did a great job with this. Why not Shakespeare?
Yeah, why not?
Let's do it.
It's not English.
It's not like Shakespeare's missing out on it.
Yeah, obtaining all of Shakespeare is public domain. It's just an extra challenge because of the verbiage.
I think that makes it more fun. Vexper says no musicals.
I like it.
Oh my gosh, that would be so hard.
I mean,
musical would be
mild delays here. These songs have been rough.
Yeah.
When we get back to the studio, maybe.
Yeah. Ryan, are you setting us up for a raid?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. So as always, here at Perception Studio, if any of you are new, we always pay our love forward with a raid, so we can bring you all to another channel worth watching, and so you can go experience some more fun. Thanks everybody for hanging out. If you're curious what we're up to, actually, can we show the? Did you already click it?
No, I haven't yet.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for your donations. Thank you all so much. We hit awesome goals tonight. Thank you so much.
Very much. And check the Discord on Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. We'll be posting the new week's schedule then and there. And then any other questions, hit us on the Discord, Twitter, Instagram, wherever. We got you, friends.
Yeah. And we'll be running the reel, and right as it's kind of finishing up, we'll start the raid. So you'll all pop over to our friends at We Are Nerdsmith. They're doing some fun things right now.
Say hi to them.
Guys.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.
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 And we are Perception Studio.
Wild turkey that hungers for blood.
Hey, how goes Dandy? Hi, I'm Haley.
And I'm Andrew.
Fuck you. Yes, I'm kind as shit.
The room begins to fill with a bunch of cola. Our heroes begin to drown.
What my favorite movie of each year was?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm totally fine if I get crushed by a giant dragon slong. If that's how I'm gonna go, then that's a way to go.
I believe you. I say, tickle this, bitch, and I take.
We'll send a
Feel you later. That was almost good.
The donation of $200 in overpriced. Look under your seats because everybody gets a reroll. So you get a reroll. You get a reroll. You get a reroll.
I hate it so much. And people are like, no.
Sexual stuff. But we're just a little more grounded. So your progression is in the sky.
Get in here.
Get in the
I gotta stop squeezing out of. Scoot your fucking chair over. Is that better?
No, go away.
Oh, Jesus.